Welcome to the Flanagan Homestead. So congratulations, you just bought your first chainsaw and you're ready to get out and get after it, but you're not honestly 100% certain what you're supposed to be doing. So today we're going to talk just a basics chainsaw 101, a couple safety things, a couple maintenance things, nothing real in depth, but something to help get you started. Okay, you bought your chainsaw, you take it home, you're ready to go cut down a tree or cut up some firewood. First things first, make sure you get your gas in there, and it's mixed gas. Absolutely make sure you mix it right. I got a whole nother video on that. And make sure you put oil in the oil compartment. These are made to run out at approximately the same time. Never ever put gas in without putting oil in for the bar oil. So this is so that the chain gets lubricated as it goes around, and it should be consistently getting lubricated. So again, if you put gas in, you put oil in every time. Lift, twist, comes out. All the way full. You're ready to fire up your saw now. Always use ear protection. It could be the little foam roll-up ones that you stick in your ear. You could have the ear protection that goes over your ears. I don't care. But a lot of young guys think, I'll be fine, I don't need to use this. And then you end up cutting longer than you think. You're going to pay the price in the long run. Put in ear protection before you fire up your chainsaw. All the way up is stop. You can see the little stop sign. Grab the handle, squeeze, press all the way down for choke. After you get a little bit of a rev, you bring it up one notch. Ready to roll. One of the features that's on pretty much every saw, and I forgot about it when I first bought my first chainsaw years and years ago, is the chain brake. And so the chain can move freely on the bar, but it's a safety feature. If there's kickback, the chain brake sets, and then the chain cannot move on the bar at all. Well, one of the times I accidentally either bumped this forward by myself or it's went off. I don't remember exactly the details. But I couldn't get my saw going. I tried to change my chain, and I couldn't get my chain off. It was just a mess. All I forgot to is release the chain brake, push that back up, and then the chain will move again. Chain brake on, chain brake off. So since we were just talking about the chain brake and that's a safety feature, let's talk about what's the safest area to cut on the log. So if I'm using my chainsaw, the safest place to do it is cutting along anywhere along the flat of the bar, and the bar is not going to want to kick back or come flying back at you. If you are running the saw and you hit the end of your saw into the log, the chain that's running over this way at a high speed is going to catch, and it's going to want to flip back. Now if you're pointing the saw down below you, the odds of it flipping all the way back up and hitting you are not that great. But if I'm down low and I'm trying to cut branches up above me, and I've had this happen to my friends where he's got a gash on his face, if you're hitting here and you hit the very end of the saw bar on a branch, it can kick back and it's coming right back at your face, and gravity is working in favor of it flying at you instead of stopping it. If you're down here and you hit it, the end is probably not flying back up at you. But if you're doing it overhead, be especially careful of using the very end of your bar, because that chain is rotating this way. It catches, it wants to come back. Try to, be careful if you're using the end, but whenever possible, use the flat of the bar. You can use the bottom, you can use the top of the bar and be lifting up. You can cut either way, that's fine. Okay, but be careful. Some of the home use saws actually have a cap right here that protects this, so you can't actually cut anything with the end here because they don't want it to kick back. I don't like that. There are times you want to use the very end of your saw, but be careful. Another safety tip, have good footing. If I'm going up to cut a tree, I'm not going to be in mud where I'm slipping and sliding down, and I want to have a clear space and more than one direction. And as I'm cutting down a tree, if I need to, I can go this way and I can go this way. Have yourself cleared out a little bit of space. And the other thing I'm talking about having a good fitting, I just bought another piece of property and I'm clearing brush. I got vine maple and everything over there, and I'm wanting to just run my saw through it, and I'm stepping over stuff and trying to cut, and I have to remind myself, slow down. This chain is running fast. I don't want to be tripping over stuff. So I want to step over the brush that I'm cutting, stand still, get my feet set, cut it, pull the saw out, step in, get good footing, and then start running through all the vine maples and the blackberries and everything else that's there. Get good footing, don't be running through. I have, fortunately, not my leg, but I've cut holes in my Carhartts right here because I'm cutting and I stumbled and I lift my leg up, and fortunately I didn't have my hand on the throttle, so the chain wasn't going fast, and I got the double layer Carhartts on, but they're not double layer anymore, okay? Stand still, get good footing, make your cut. Here's one that I tend to forget, but I need to remember to do. If your saw isn't running really well, or you need to do this from time to time anyway, open up the back, pull your air filter out, and simply take an air compressor and blow it off. You may find that this makes a big difference in performance. Okay, the day is going to come when you're going to have to change your chain, and it's not that difficult, but there's steps that you need to do. First of all, obviously you should have a chainsaw tool that has the wrench on one end, screwdriver on the other end. Loosen up the nuts that are holding the casing here. I'm going to take the nuts off. I'm going to need to clean this out. Okay, I don't need to change my chain, but this is why I wanted to open it up. I've been, like I said, clearing brush and whatnot, and I'm gunking up this area, and I want to get this cleaned out. That was my plan today. So there's a couple different things I can do to clean this out. Number one, usually if I'm just in a hurry, I could just take my screwdriver and my tool and just get out the major chunks of stuff, both in there and all this. This is what comes from clearing out. I'm not cutting firewood. I was cutting brush, cutting through blackberry bushes, grass, vine maples, a few rotten logs, and it just really wants to cake in here. So I've cleared that out. Now I don't go this far very often, but you can do this. I've got a little gasoline here. It helps clean things up, and I'm just going to wipe it in here. I've got a lot of work to get done on my new property, and I want to make sure that this is running good when I'm out there. I don't want to be monkeying around with it, so I'm going to take care of it tonight while I'm home and really get this cleaned out. I'm even going to take an old toothbrush and kind of scrub in some spots. I am not going to get this spotless. It doesn't need to be. These places where the oil comes out, that's important to get that cleaned up. Okay, another thing that you can do while you've got your bar off, I'm going to take a utility knife blade and just run it down the bar. I'm not doing the cutting edge forward, I'm doing the back edge because I want a little bit of width. And you can see there's a fair amount of gunk that's been left in the groove in my bar. So if I run this through a couple times, I can hopefully get that out. See that stuff coming out. Make sure the end of your bar, the sprockets here, spin freely. Now I already started working on this, so you might not see it as much as you want. This little hole was full. If you watch, you might be able to see I'm pushing out junk from the bar right here. That came out when I was pushing in this hole. That's because this is where the bar oil comes in. Oil comes here and it gets into the groove. So this hole needs to be cleaned out when you clean it up. I'm going to run my knife through here again, get that cleaned out. Punch this again. Sorry, I jumped off camera. I should have had my tools right here. Push that through. Make sure that's clean. There is one on both sides of the bar. Okay, that's because you can flip the bar over. So make sure the other side is clean as well. Clean. Okay. So as I mentioned, you can flip your bar over both ways. So there's oil holes on both sides and there's the tension holes on both sides. So my bar is so old you can't see the Stihl anymore, but it has ST right here. So normally it'd be here. I'm going to turn it this way so that it wears evenly, and it's going to be upside down the Stihl, but that's fine. I'm going to then just place the bar back on here until this little pin, which pushes the tension on it, the bar fits in that hole. Now to get the bar back, the chain back on, I'm going to need to move that pin back so that there's slack in the chain, otherwise I'm not going to get back on. So now, I don't know if you saw that pin moved backwards. So when I put this on, it'll have some slack in the chain. Then as I get everything back in place, I'll move it back the other direction and it will move the bar out to take the slack out of the chain. Get the chain set back on your bar. Make sure that the teeth are pointing forward over the top and coming back over the bottom. Get the chain lined up in the sprockets. Make sure that it's in the grooves, and then you're going to pull back and make it sit over that tension pin. Once you get it this far, you can put the face back on. Where's my nuts? Right here. And I'll just hand tighten both of these to keep it reasonably tight. At this point in time, because I loosened it, you can see that the chain is incredibly loose and it would just fall off if you're out there. So I've just hand tightened this. Now I'm going to do the typical righty-tighty. I'm going to start tightening this. You can see the chain sucking in tight. It's still loose, so I'm going to pull it a little bit more. I can still pull a little too loose, just a little bit more tautness. Now I can pull it to where the teeth fit in the grooves of the bar, but I can't pull it much farther. It'll still spin freely. Oh. I like to rotate the chain because then it might fit in the sprockets a little bit better, which I heard it do that. And then obviously there's more slack in here, so I'm going to give it another twist tighter. And we're going to be set here in just a second. Okay, so we're right about there. Now again, this, I can pull it just up above the groove. This is probably good for cutting firewood, but because I'm going to be cutting all kinds of brush and vine maples, and that tends to want to yank the chain off, I'm going to take it even tighter because those vine maples, the way it twists and pulls, it really wants to yank the chain right off. So we're going to make the chain a little bit tighter, and it's not going to want to come off. So that's pretty tight. And then you tighten down the nuts. Don't reef them off, but give them a good twist. And then when you're done there, I like to fire it back up and see, sometimes, again, it fits in the sprockets a little bit better and creates a little bit of slack. Okay, I ran it for a second. Still the same tightness that I like. We're good to go out and do some cuts. Sometimes when a bar is losing the paint around the edges, it's got too hot, and sometimes the reason it gets too hot is that bar oil supply area is clogged up. And as I mentioned, I'm a Christmas tree farmer, and we're laying down on the ground and cutting as close to the ground as we can often, and quite often we're going through dirt and grass and different things that clog that up. So we really need to get that out, because if the oil's not coming in here, the bar gets really hot, and then that's not good for the bar or the chain. So I need to make sure that that's clean more often. As I mentioned before, I'm a Christmas tree farmer, and I end up running my saw in a lot of dirt. Dirt is not good for your saw. Besides clogging up the oil supply, it dulls your chains quickly. Okay, obviously, you know, if you hit a rock, that's going to dull it up. But rock, sand, dirt, that's all bad for your chain. You want to hit wood only when you're cutting with your chainsaw. Try to stay from hitting dirt or anything else. That being said, if you have a sharp chain, you're going to be throwing chips out. You're going to be cutting crossways, and there's going to be chips flying out, not sawdust. If you see sawdust like your circular saw in the garage, that's not good. You want to see wood chips coming out. If you're not getting good wood chips, that means one of two things. You probably, your cutter is not sharp. It got dulled on something. You need to sharpen it. And I'm not going to show you how to do that right now. I'm going to do another video on just sharpening your chain in a bit, but there's a lot of people that have put out some good videos on sharpening your chain. So either your cutter's not sharp, or there's depth guides right in front of your cutters, and if you've sharpened your chain enough times that it's lowering down, then the depth guide is too high and you're not getting that right amount of chip in there, so you might have to file those down. But you'll check those out. You can check out a lot of chain sharpening videos. I hope to be making one soon. And last but not least, if you've been sharpening your saw multiple times, but you hit a rock that was like on one side and you had to take a lot more out, if the cutters that are facing right are all filed down and the ones that are going left are not as much, when you try to cut into a log, it's going to pull your bar down and turn it. And I've only really had this happen once, where I'm in here and I'm trying to go down, and it just, no matter how I tried, it was always turning to the left. Always turning to the left, because I'd sharpened one side of the chain much more than the other. So I had to go down and file the other side out, and then it would go straight through the wood. So if you're making cuts that are going down and always turning, you've got an imbalanced sharp and chain as far as it's been sharpened. Part of the reason I'm not going to show you how to sharpen the chain right now is I have a carbide tip chain on, which is, I don't have the equipment needed to do a carbide tip chain. Why do I have a carbide tip chain on, you might ask? Again, I'm doing Christmas trees and cutting through the dirt, and we used to be sharpening our chains over and over and over again on the job. I bought this carbide tip chain that probably cost 3 times as much as a normal chain. It was almost $100 for the chain alone. We went through 5 days of cutting Christmas trees. And then I've come home and I've been using it for a couple days here at home. I have not sharpened my chain once. This thing is amazing. When I do need it sharpened, they're going to have special teeth down at the saw shop that are going to do it for me. But this thing has saved so much time when we're trying to get trees down and we're cutting through that dirt and those molehills and multiple cuts, and we did not sharpen it the entire season. Just cut, cut, cut. and it stayed sharp. Expensive, but this carbide tip chain is something else. Okay, so that was the basics of running your chainsaw. You're ready to go out there and get to work. Hey, have fun. Be safe, but have fun. I still, after all these years, enjoy laying down a couple trees, cutting them up for firewood, clearing an area. When you're done with your project and you may not be using it for months, pour out the extra gas, turn it on, run it till the gas is out. That's best for your carburetor and your engine. Leave it out there. And again, please consider joining me more on the Flanagan Homestead, where Christmas trees are my business, teaching included horticulture is my job, and outdoor projects are my passion. See you again soon.